Duke, 6-2 and 3-1 in the conference, or are they 7-1 and 4-0 in the conference, taking on North Carolina, who is actually 7-1. We know that, we verified it, and they're 4-0 in the ACC. So your thoughts, Brittnee, about Duke and North Carolina? This could be the biggest game in the division this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I am the girl that went on record last week and said that Pitt was going to be able to beat UNC and then had to eat crow on Twitter. Yes, yeah.
I did too.
You're very kind to me about it. But I was impressed by what I saw from UNC last week. I really was. We knew that would kind of be a close game, but UNC really pulled away with it. The interesting thing about this is even after last week's debacle in Durham, Duke still sort of controls its own destiny a little bit in this division. If they're able to win, they could end up with a tie, and then Duke plays Pitt the following week. So it's definitely an interesting matchup. I think UNC will be able to get it again this week, and there's a great shot for this game.
Okay, Robert, what are your thoughts about North Carolina and Duke, and do you have a pick for us?
Sure. Wake played North Carolina several weeks ago, and they're an excellent team. They're incredibly explosive on the offensive end, and I think the main thing to watch is Carolina's explosiveness versus the ability for Duke to stop the ball. So that's going to be where it's ultimately decided, and I'm going with Carolina in this one.
Okay, Robert, let's stay with you. We got Notre Dame, obviously very highly regarded, the second-rated one-loss team in the country at number 5, having lost just that very close game, had a 2-point conversion to try to go to overtime at Clemson. Going to Pitt, the Panthers, as Brittnee outlined for us, had a huge game against North Carolina, so they've dropped back in the race in the division, but could definitely, with one slip-up, be right back in it. Notre Dame at 7-1, taking on Pitt. Of course, this is not going to count as a conference game for Pitt, but could get them back on the national map.
I'm going with Notre Dame in this one, but I don't blame you all for picking Pittsburgh last week either. I think they're a very talented team. I think Narduzzi's doing an outstanding job with that program, but I just think Notre Dame has too many athletes in this one, and even though they're playing on the road, they will emerge victorious.
Okay, Brittnee, Notre Dame, quite a factor on the national scene at this point, but they have to keep winning. They've got a loss. They go to Pitt.
Yeah, and I agree, Robert. Pat Narduzzi, all credit goes to him for the fact that Pitt's even a part of the conversation at this point, but I think Notre Dame is going to be able to pull past them this weekend. And what's interesting, Notre Dame at this point last year had the same record. They were 7-1 and then went on a losing streak that kind of took them out of contention. I don't see and really hope, because I like when Notre Dame is good, I really hope that the Irish don't go back on that same losing streak at the end of the season. I think the memory of last year will keep them sort of focusing in and following through and getting business done starting this weekend against Pitt.
Yeah, it was those darn Seminoles that sent them on their losing ways last year, and that play at the goal line is what happened there. All right, Brittnee, we've got Syracuse taking on Louisville. The Q's coming in at 3-5. They need to win some games to get to postseason play. Louisville, that we expect getting to bowl games typically, but the Cardinals are just 4-4.
Yeah, Louisville, I expected them to be better this year, but I still think Syracuse defense is going to be the reason that they're not going to be able to win, so I'm taking Louisville in this one.
What do you say here, Robert? We got Louisville, who's got a freshman at quarterback who's played rather well. I think their future's bright. They recruit well, very solid on defense, hosting Syracuse.
Yeah, I'm also going to go with Louisville in this one, and I'll also add Wake plays at Notre Dame next week, so their losing streak won't be longer than one if they lose to Pittsburgh this week. But yeah, Wake played Louisville this past Friday, and their front seven is outstanding. So I think Syracuse is really going to struggle with that, and as you mentioned, Lamar Jackson, a very mobile quarterback who will give defenses fits. I will also go with Louisville on this one.
Robert, is this what you condition yourself to do when you root for a school like Wake, just to say, it's a foregone conclusion, we lost, I'm not going to get my hopes up? Is that kind of what you do?
It certainly depends on the game. I mean, if there's a game at Notre Dame, I mean, sometimes you try and I mostly in these first few years have looked for week-to-week improvement pretty much, and look at how well we're recruiting compared to how well we have been. And I'm also in graduate school at Vanderbilt right now, so I did not pick the two best schools in terms of football. You mentioned Houston. Yeah, they sort of took it to Vanderbilt pretty recently. But, yeah, I mean, I mostly look for improvement as the season goes along and hope that specifically from younger players.
Well, considering your ties to Wake and going to school at Vanderbilt as well, you definitely have bragging rights, if not during the off season, maybe for the rest of life, if nothing else. Maybe just not on college football Saturdays, but I think you're doing okay otherwise.
Oh, thanks.
Maybe not necessarily the eyes of the college football world on this one, aside from people just curious about what Miami's going to do or say. Virginia goes to Miami to take on the Canes, Brittnee.
This one was so close to me that I kind of scribbled down one name and scribbled it out and scribbled down another name. I don't know what to think about Miami. I expected last week them to come in a little bit discouraged, and then they hung in there until the end and pulled off a miraculous ending that we're still talking about today on Wednesday. I'm going to give a little bit of an edge to Miami, perhaps just because they might be riding on the adrenaline high of last week. Statistically, I'm dead even on these two teams playing each other. So I'm going to give Miami an edge for adrenaline.
To make you feel a little bit better about the situation, Brittnee, I'm guessing nobody's going to come after you for missing the Miami-Virginia pick.
I don't know. Cam might come get me for that.
He'll come get everybody.
Yeah.
All right, Robert, what do you have with the Cavaliers taking on the Canes?
Yeah, this is a tough one. I'm not even sure if Kaya's scheduled to play yet. I know he's still going through that concussion protocol, but on the chance that he does play, I'll go with Miami. I'll take him even if he doesn't. I just don't really believe in Mike London and don't think that program is going too many places under the current leadership. So I'll take Miami in a close one.
Okay, Robert, you two have set it up very nicely for us. Florida State, defending ACC champions, owners of this conference for quite some time, going to Clemson, the #1 team in the nation right now, to take on the undefeated Tigers.
Well, I'm going with Clemson on this one. I think they just have too much offensive firepower. They have arguably the best quarterback in the country, and they're playing at home in an unbelievable environment in Death Valley. So. I was very impressed with how they responded to some adversity last week against North Carolina State. But I just think, their offensive firepower combined with the athletes they have on defense, and as well as Cook's potential injury status, I think that's just too much, and I'll take Clemson in this one.
All right, BTN, we got Florida State going to Clemson here.
Yeah, I got to take Clemson on that one as well. I think Deshaun Watson is absolutely unstoppable. I think he's played with a lot of confidence for as young as he is. And I think last week, as Robert started to allude to, when we saw them kind of get that slow start against NC State and the Clemsoning jokes began on Twitter, you saw them overcome that, come out, and then win solidly there at the end. So I think they sort of had their stumble, and they were able to pull past it. So I think that gives them a lot of confidence. They're playing at home. The limited run game for Florida State that we think we might end up with, because we still don't know if Dalvin Cook's going to be back, combined with Clemson's pass defense, I think those are all reasons why the Tigers are going to be able to pull this out and go ahead and start finishing the road to the ACC championship game.